Hi everyone, welcome to the House Democratic Caucus. I'm Lori Golden. I represent Essex Junction. Hopefully everyone had a fabulous weekend and enjoyed some of the fun that we had. And to all the mothers, I hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day. Are there any announcements from any members?
Hi, just another quick announcement about the Abenaki celebration today, and the reason we have these instruments on. They have this room reserved as soon as we're out of here.
Thank you for that reminder, and we will try to be quick. All right, we have two bills to talk about today. We're going to start with Representative Granning on H639 genetic data privacy.
Thank you, Representative Dee Granning from Jericho, Representative Jeff Underhill. We sent 639 to the Senate. It is genetic privacy. They only gave us two amendments to it, and we're going to the conference committee. So I just wanted to tell folks why, because it doesn't seem like it's such a big deal. One of their areas of amendment was to have a cure period for the private right of action on genetic data privacy. So what that means is if a business has your genetic data and it is not keeping it really safe and it gets out there, the business will then have 60 days, the way it's written, plus however long it takes to get the information to them and all of the different things. And that genetic data is out there in the world. A cure period is a great thing for technical issues if there's a privacy policy that is not available, but when it is your genetic data, that is pretty much you, and it can't be cured. There is no ability to cure that information got out. So in order to do this quickly without back and forthing a bunch of amendments, the House position is that you cannot have a cure period on genetic data. I just wanted to explain that, and if anybody has questions on it, because it does feel very small and technical, but it is your essence, and we don't think that can get cured. So questions, thoughts?
And did the conference committee start?
No, conference committee, I think is going to get named tomorrow.
Okay. Great. No questions? Wonderful. Robin's giving you my thumbs up. Okay, next we have I lost my notes, but we have Representative Byron and then Representative Wood to talk about the same bill, which you're gonna have to say what this.
I got you.
Thank you.
Yes. Hey, everyone, Representative Matt Byron, Chair, House Government and Operations Military Affairs. Here to speak to S278, which is our annual cannabis bill relating to the adult use market. We're doing markup on this bill later this afternoon, so it will be changing to a degree. So I'm going to keep this high level for folks. So first and foremost, one of the larger proposals is in and around THC packaging and transaction limits, raising the per package cap up from 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams. And that would help it align with the new purchase and possession limits. Currently, it's 1 ounce of flower and 5 grams of hashish. The proposal in the bill that came over from the Senate is to bump that up to 2 ounces and 10 grams. The next notable sections are 2 pilot programs. One is about public events. There's language in last year's bill that got removed at the end that spoke to the same concept. So this gives the Cannabis Control Board the authority to approve up to 20 events per year. There is a provision that will require local approval. There is an array of safety standards that are outlined. And also a notable component is there would be no co-location with alcohol, which means no one can serve alcohol at the event where the cannabis is being sold. Next is a delivery permit pilot. This is up to 15 permits for small cultivators and manufacturers. And it's essentially the ability to sell to the public in like a quasi retail capacity from those smaller cultivators and manufacturers. There is limited hours of operation to do so, training requirements for staff, and a no resale provision in there. And they're both time limited and there's extensive rulemaking. Next up, there is a provision in there that kind of reconfigures the opt-in, opt-out process with municipalities for manufacturing and retail. That is not as strict as what is currently in law. And then moving on, we have other provisions in there that update licensing, including some reduction in fees for outdoor cultivators, especially the smaller ones. It is also going to allow, enable like a grower cooperative, very much like we've done with like dairy and other aspects of our agricultural landscape. And it's going to give expanded access to the Cannabis Development Fund to help support more of the small businesses. And a few other nuts and bolts in there. I have to speak to greater detail once we finish markup. And then let's see, the Cannabis Control Board has a couple of report backs and some of these moving parts. Just because a lot of this stuff is also done off session throughout their like rulemaking and procedure process. So it's just this kind of giving them continued authority as these things evolve to operate in a very similar capacity as a regulator. So with that, I guess you want to go before we go to questions?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's do you and the
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so Chair Byram, Teresa Wood from Waterbury and House Human Services. So our committee has taken some testimony on this bill because it does have implications for public health. And so we generally take a look at any cannabis bills that come through, especially when they're proposing single package increases, moving from 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams of THC. And then the other piece that we are looking at is the single transaction limit is being proposed to increase from 1 ounce to 2 ounces. So our committee really hasn't had any discussion yet. We've just taken the testimony. It won't surprise you that the public health officials are not in favor of these changes. And so that's the lens that we'll be looking at this from, and appreciate any feedback and input that members of the caucus might have or anyone else. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Candace White, Good Morningsville. So wondering if you can elaborate on the changes that municipalities, like how municipalities will opt in or out of cannabis businesses. From what I remember, I thought that municipalities or towns were putting this on their town meeting ballot in March to say whether they wanted a cannabis retailer in their town or not. So if you could just elaborate on what has changed. And maybe I got that wrong. Thank you.
Give me 1 second to pull.
The other thing I just wanted to say about the two things before your answer to your question, Representative White, I neglected to mention that during our testimony in committee, the Cannabis Control Board said that the requests for the increases in THC and purchase limits were not at their request.
So the language reads the proposal to hold a vote pursuant to this subsection, which is the governing subsection, may be made by the legislative body of the municipality or by a petition of 5% of voters. So that's a little bit more expansive as to who can call the vote. And then there is also language that speaks more clearly to that they can't pass an ordinance or a bylaw that completely prohibits an action. It pluralizes establishment to establishments. So it's speaking a little bit more broadly to both like retail and manufacturing siting within a municipality. And this proposal is an evolution of lessons learned from the original construct of this statute.
Any other questions?
Representative Territory from Morton. Representative Byron, could you remind me of the change that's happened federally that will affect cannabis prospects in the state?
I think that's more in regards to the hemp language that is in the miscellaneous agriculture bill. And I'm happy to do that, but that's not this bill. Yes, but we did have hands in that session. I'm happy to fill in.
Any other questions?
Hi, Rep Dodge from Essex. I was just wondering if you could remind us the origin of the bill and who's proposed this?
This is a Senate bill and it was, I know Senator Ron Ismail has been the lead on this conversation from the Senate side.
Thanks.
It did pass 5-0 out of Senate Economic Development. And I know I don't recall what the floor vote was, but it was a strong vote.
Any other questions?
So this bill is still being discussed in both committees, so if you have questions or thoughts, please reach out to either Chair Williams or Chair Byron. And that is all we have for today, unless there's other announcements.